Welcome to Road to 100 Million, where we are on a mission to impact over 100 million lives to achieve their dreams. Welcome to this episode of Road to 100 Million, where we are on a mission to impact over 100 million lives to achieve their dreams. Today, we have an amazing guest by the name of Steve Holbrook. He is a guy who's been an absolute inspiration to me, and we actually happen to be in the same industry with the same company, and his mentors are the guys that I'm just finally getting around, and he's just been an absolute inspiration, like I said, as a leader, as someone who has an amazing story, which we'll get into, and someone who just is super persistent and will never give up. And, you know, I can't wait to see what you do in these next 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, I feel like you're just barely getting to that first part of it and barely scratching the surface. So with that said, Steve, I appreciate you for being on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me, Andrew. It's cool to be here.
Of course, of course. And listen, so yeah, like I said, the main reason, I wanted to get you on was, I've seen so much of your content out there and so much just leadership skill, like all the leadership skills you have are just so on point with everything that my mentors have told me. And so when I look at the things you do and the things the way you carry yourself around your team, I've heard you multiple times saying, you're never above your team. It's something that I like to practice with my team as well. It's something that I tell them, like, I'm never above you. I'm never below you. I'm always beside you. So I wanted to first start into that and really break into your leadership of like, how did you learn how to be a leader? I know you've had your long career in the insurance industry, and you've gone through adversities, but on the leadership side of things, like, I just feel like you're such a natural at it, and I just want to learn, like, how did you learn? And what are some things that help you to really keep that ego down of you're always beside your people?
Yeah, I appreciate the compliment, but I'll tell you what, I was not like this when I started off in business. This has been, I mean, I'm a product of an environment. I'm a product of mentorship. It probably goes back for me when I was 15 years old. I got off the bus in grade 8 and I walked into a restaurant and I asked for a job, even though I hadn't told my parents yet. And I started washing dishes for $4.25 an hour.
Wow.
And I just wanted to be in an environment. I just wanted to be around people that were excited, that were on the move. So I would say that I've been a product of my environment my whole life. I worked at the restaurant until I was 23, and then I hopped in this financial services company, which is, personal development, financial services business, and lots of trial and error. I thought I had my business going 5, 6 times before I actually did. There was a lot of start and drops, starts and drops, starts and drops. And just when I thought I had things going, just when I thought I had things figured out, I didn't. So I've stepped on a lot of landmines. I've blown myself up a few times. I've blown a few teammates up a few times along the way, but I have learned through trial and error, how to lead people, how to lead various people, not just people like you or like me. And it's been a lot of years, but it's been, other than getting married and having children, it's been the most rewarding thing that I've ever been a part of in my entire life, and that is building leaders.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. And I can definitely resonate with that because I recently started, I'm so new to the industry of even being a leader. I recently went through a whole transition in personal development after my last mentor. And now is the first time I've kind of sat in a leadership position. And it was the first time I actually ever felt any kind of sense of fulfillment when I was able to, one, let the knowledge of from my mentors come through me for other people and actually be able to have an impact on somebody's life. And it was the first time I felt fulfillment. At that point, I knew this is something I have to do. But I want to jump into a little bit of that story of, you said you worked at that restaurant from age 15 to 23. I
Yeah.
believe the name was Earl's, was it?
Yes, sir. Earls. Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I know you went on and you went to college, right? You went to college and you eventually had an opportunity to either, one, become a general manager at Earl's, or two, I believe your family had a business as well, right?
Yeah.
Or three, it's kind of like you paved your own way. And what I want to learn is like, what pushed you to kind of pave your own way there, versus kind of, I mean, a lot of people probably would have done the family business side. It seemed very secure. It
Yeah.
was something that was already started, and it's just kind of seemed like the normal way. Or as a general manager, I mean, you said it yourself. You almost thought like that was your dream job, right? And that was kind of where you wanted to stay. So, what kind of made you change and really take that leap, to have the courage to take the leap?
Well, man, to really understand kind of my mindset at the time, it really goes back to, when I was born. I mean, I was born with Crohn's disease. I've been sick my whole life. Every year was a battle. Every school year was a challenge. Lots of hospital visits, lots of trial medication, lots of surgeries, lots of being alone, lots of being scared, lots of being picked on, lots of feeling like I didn't belong, and a lot of feeling of I wasn't good enough and I wasn't like everybody else. And I got to a point where after college, yeah, I had a couple opportunities. I could have been a general manager of a restaurant. The problem I had with that is I had an entrepreneurial bug in my body since the day I was born. I never wanted to hit a glass ceiling. I always wanted to get paid what I was worth. I didn't want to spend 10 years somewhere and walk away with a vacation paycheck. I liked the idea of building equity. I saw my family building a successful business. The other option was the family business, very successful masonry company. I could have had an opportunity to work there, but honestly, man, tell you the truth, I was looking for a mountain to climb. I needed a mountain to climb. And the family business, it just wasn't a big enough mountain. I wasn't looking for easy. I was looking for possible. I wanted a place where none of my insecurities growing up mattered. None of that mattered. I wanted to find a place where I could work as hard as as hard as I wanted to, and I'd get directly rewarded. I wanted to be a part of something where I felt like I belonged, where I felt like I was included. I felt like I could pave my own path, where I was in control for the first time in my whole life, where my whole life at times felt out of control. I wanted to be back in the driver's seat. And I just wasn't willing to settle. I always believed the money would come, because I always believed deep down that I was an asset to any team that I was a part of. And I had that inherent belief in myself. So, I did lack confidence in this industry, but I saw this as a mountain that I could climb. And man, I'm so glad I did.
Wow. Well, I absolutely love that, because that's a quote that I really got from you, that I don't want easy, I want possible. And that's another thing that I kind of tied in when I was doing my due diligence on you, where uh, after you went to the hospital, I believe the last time, which I want you to jump into a little bit after, when you had your 10 agents, right, that were kind of keeping up the team. Um, After that, you said, you wanted, what is it? You approached it like a game, right? You said you learned to love the challenges, So first I want to kind of explain to people, what does it take to actually learn to love it? Because in entrepreneurship, like you said, it's false start after false start after false start, and it's constantly like that, and it's always the moment before it all starts, right? So what gave you that mindset to really switch that paradigm to, say, what, I'm looking, I want that mountain, I want it to be hard, right? And instead of just saying, hey, I just want to get there, right? What was that? And then if you could jump into a little bit of the story of what happened after, your 10 agents and you were kind of getting off the ground, and what happened on that false start.
Yeah, I think to answer your first question, I just always associated like hard with worth it, hard with worth it. And, I don't know if it's because I was sick my whole life growing up, but I always thought into the future. I don't know if it's because when I was younger, I always would think, man, like one day it's going to be so great when I'm healthy. It'll be so great when my joints aren't flaring up and the doctor has to withdraw fluid from my knees just so I can get my jeans over my kneecaps. I mean, I think I was always thinking forward to like a better time. And I did enjoy the moment, but I thought a lot about, man, one day when I'm not sick, when I don't have to tube feed myself at 14 for an entire year, and I would think ahead. So I think when I started to look at my life in my early 20s, I just had this ability to put myself at 65. And I had a conversation with myself at 70, God willing, that I, was able to stay healthy that long. I've had a conversation with myself at 75, 80 years old. And, I asked myself those future questions, like, how do you want to feel at 80, looking back, like, this is your only shot. How do you want to feel? And when I actually think about it, and I actually really dug into those answers, I wanted to feel this sense of satisfaction and sense of significance and sense of, worth and impact that people only dream of. And I didn't want to wait till I was 60, 65, 70 to go and start thinking about those things like everybody else. I wanted to live my life on purpose, with purpose, from the very beginning. So that whether my journey ended at 30, 35, 40, 60, God willing, 100, no matter when it ended, there would be no regret. So I was looking for a mountain to climb. Now, fast forward 5 years into the business, I had a handful of agents. I had, my sister was on board, the best man at my wedding, Chad, future best man at my wedding, was on board, and a handful of other people. I mean, there was probably 7 or 8 people coming to meetings. We had 10 or a dozen licensed people or licensed agents on our team. Or 5 years in, and I got sick that year. And after that year, I still made good money on residuals. I mean, it's one of the highest paying industries on the planet. It's one of the most noble with a handful of agents. I still made, well into the 6 figures, but I came out of that and I had this entirely new lease on life. I wasn't competing anymore. I was creating. I wanted to create. I wanted to do something big. And it just, the opportunity really, really shone through that year. When I needed it the most, it delivered. And this company always delivered on its promises. And my wife and I decided to dedicate, the rest of our life to building this business and making it about other people. And that's really where the last 10 years, we just built something extraordinary.
Wow. That's beautiful. It sounded like you kind of came out and just, it sounds like maybe it was perspective of like no longer goals, but like how far can we go? Like what is the actual change we can have here,
Totally.
and impact?
Yeah.
And
That's the game.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Cause I'm super young into this game, right? Super early, but I already have that vision of like, I have my flag planted. This is what I want to do. It's aligned with my values and my mission of what I want to do. I want to impact people. And so, it's just so reassuring being able to hear that. And it just makes me know I'm in the exact right place. And so one thing I want to touch on though there is something that obviously me being young and into this industry is something I deal with too. But going into that, those false starts after false starts, even, a couple years in, having a handful of agents licensed, then to everything still happening until wanting to continue, like, where does that, like that patience, right? That patience of knowing that it's going to deliver, right? And it's going to come in at the right exact time. What are some things you maybe did to overcome maybe that patience of trying to constantly build and keep getting knocked down and just having to rebuild?
No, that's a great question. I mean, we're in the people business. So it's the greatest business in the world because we get to impact beautiful lives, but we're also in the people business. And people are messed up, man. They're screwed up. They've been let down, lied to, cheated on. So we're dealing with a bunch of human beings. And you know what human beings are like because we're both one, and it's really the game of the 6 inches between your ears.
Yep.
But look, my thing is this. I owe people two things. I owe them a good environment and a good example. That's all I owe them. A good environment and a good example. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. I don't wait for people. I treat everybody like they're going to be with me forever, and I run my business like they're all going to quit tomorrow. It's just the way I do it. I'm going to treat you like we are going to travel the damn world together, because if you stick with me, we will. If you quit, which is the only easy thing to do, by the way, is quit. It's the only easy thing to do is quit. If you quit, I don't have to worry about traveling the world with you. I don't have to worry about being at your kid's graduation. I don't have to worry about you being at my funeral, because chances are, unless we remain lifelong friends, and there's only a handful of those. I mean, you can't have 1,000 lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Those are the exceptions, right? So that's it. I mean, I treat you like you're with me forever, and I run my business like you're going to be gone tomorrow. And, I get emotionally attached to the ones that stay.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. And this is another question, kind of selfishly for the listeners of mine,
Yeah.
but um, it's a thing about, like you said, you get emotionally attached to your people and you treat them that way as if they're going to be with you forever. There's one thing where it's like, there's times where I'm more excited about getting, one of my team members to their goals more than I'm excited to get my goals. Right. I'm more excited. And, where's that kind of, is there a balance there
Yeah.
between like stretching yourself so thin for your team because you care about them so much, but at the same time, you have to be able to take care of yourself because you can't give what you don't have. If I don't build a 7-figure business here, I can't show them
Yeah.
how to do that either. So where's that kind of balance between, getting them there and also saving that time for you to continuously build?
Yeah, it's that fine balance, right? I mean, when you get in an airplane, the first thing the pilot says is you got to put your own oxygen mask on before you put the neighbor's oxygen mask on. So if you're not getting oxygen, if you're not getting the juice at a higher level, if you don't have a gap between you and your players, then then you're not, what good are you to them, right?
Yep.
You got to make sure that you have set some standards in every area of your life, and you got to play to that standard personally. And as long as you're hitting the personal standards, you're leading by example, right? You'll notice in business when you're mentoring some people and all of a sudden they're starting to catch up to you and their income's almost the same as you, they they're going to look a little elsewhere for support. They're going to go maybe ask for, they like you as a person, but
Mm-hmm.
you got to keep that gap. You got to be the one leading by example. So as long as you're leading by example and you're personally doing it and you're showing people what to do, not just telling people what to do, it's a healthy mix between, that and then also looking behind you and duplicating agents and making sure you're spending time with them. But if you're just going to be a manager of your people, I mean, managers make 50 grand a year at retail. So if you want to be a manager, you can go work retail, if you can find a job in this economy, but you go work retail. If you want to be a leader, leaders don't manage, leaders lead. Leaders lead, and it simultaneously to leading, they're duplicating, which means they're transferring skill, transferring mindset, because they're focused on the greater organization that's coming up behind them.
Wow. I absolutely agree. And, you said something in there about standards and doing, right? Just doing by showing, right? And something that I've been raising my standards on is my awareness to time, my awareness to my calendar, right? To everything I have, my productivity, the activity I get paid for versus what I don't, right? And one thing that actually Jacob and I here have practiced and try to start off this year with was your 4-week year. Right, where you break it down to 4 years and 1 year. And to be quite honest with you, we shot way too high in the beginning and kind of fell off of it. But we're gonna do it again this at the end of this month. But I want you to explain kind of what the 4-week year is and that importance of understanding, your time and your calendar.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but basically the concept is people give themselves 365 days to hit a goal. Right. It's ridiculous. Everybody wakes up January 1st with the new game plan and New Year's resolutions. And, they take their old plan out of their old binder that they read twice. Right. And they shove all the new ones in. People spend more time preparing their plan than they actually do executing it. It's ridiculous. Right. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to shrink the timeframes. One reason is we're capable of doing way more than we give ourselves credit for. So let's say you took, there's a really good book that inspired me called the 12-week year. And, that's where I was really inspired by it. What if each week was a month, right? What if you could get done in a week what normally you'd get done in a month? It's the same thing with me. It's, even in a monthly goal, people wake up March 1st, they go, oh yeah, I got 31 days to hit my goals. Yes. Let's say their goal is to make 10 grand in a month or help a certain amount of families with 10 grand. And they're banking on a deal. Like I'll talk to somebody on the 3rd. I'll be like, hey, brother, how's it going? How are the goals coming? Good. Our goals to make 10 grand. I got a plan to close on the 29th. It's going to pay me 8. I'm like 29th. I'm like, that's 320, whatever, it's 26 days away. Like, what do you mean by that? Right? Like I set my monthly goals, but then I'm accountable week by week. So every 7 days is a completely new, is a new month, if you will. So, and I'm a hockey guy. And just like basketball and hockey in playoffs, you got to win a 7-game series. You got to win 4 out of 7. So if you can win 4 out of 7 days, right, you win that week. And if you have 4 weeks in a row, you're going to get done 10x what you normally do, because you can't give yourself 30 days to accomplish a goal, because you're either going to start way too late and mail it in to start the month, or you're going to get lucky early on. A deal you've been working on for 4 months is going to close on the 4th of the month, and you made your goal, and now that's it, man. You are, I'll see you in May, right? Like, gone, right? April goal checked off. See you in May. But when you set a week goal, like each week your goal was to earn 5,000 or 4,000, right? If you make 16 grand the first week, hey, guess what? Second week's a new week, baby. You can't carry that first week. It's a new week. So there's a lot of things to unpack in there, but I really believe, and Ed Mylett talks about it. He talks about the mini days, right? There's 3 days. Yeah, there's 3 mini days. And I did that I've done that my whole career. My first day is from 6 a.m. till noon. My second day is from noon till 6. And the third day is 6 till midnight. And, in a 6-hour window, if you can outpace what most people do an entire day and you do it 3 times, 90 days later, you're living a different life. It's game over.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. My mentor David Meltzer taught me the power of 64. He calls it, and
Cool.
it's basically learning how to work 64 hours of productivity in a day. Where he says twice as many hours, the 16 hours. You learn how to do it twice as efficient by studying your calendar and finding all the efficiencies, and twice as statistically successful, getting better at what you do. Right, and he adds it up to 64 hours of productivity. So that was the first time my eyes really ever opened up, and I was like, okay, I now I'm an absolute nut about my calendar. Like, I have everything.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I love that, because it's that perspective switch. But I do want to ask about, you brought up Ed, right?
Mhm.
And I know a little bit about the story about how you kind of cultivated that relationship, but I kind of want to ask you, I want you to share with the people how you kind of opened that relationship, as well as how you built it into, him becoming one of your, like you said, lifetime friends. I'm sure there's an emotional connection there of like, Ed is a mentor and a lifelong friend. And I want to see, how did you build that relationship, and how has it affected you going forward because of his mentorship?
Yeah, no, great question. Well, it started in 2005 when I'm at a Las Vegas convention,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy comes up on stage. He's pounding on his chest. The veins are popping out of his forehead. He's all jacked up. He's like, rah, he's screaming. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? Right? Yeah. And then I heard him speak, and I forgot everything I heard that entire convention. But I remember he said, if you want a big life, you got to make big decisions. And something clicked. And in my notebook, I wrote down, I will make Ed Mylett my mentor, in my book. First time I heard him, I was sitting in the rafters of the arena with my one teammate. He's on stage and he's, lighting it up. And it was 3 years later that there was a charity golf tournament for our firm, and they did an online auction. And for some reason, Ed had offered up a 1 day with Ed Mylett. So airfare, hang out with Ed,
Mm-hmm.
dinner. So I had no idea how much this thing was. It was a silent auction online. So I freaking go to the bank. I get my visa extended all the way. I bid 12 G's. And then I found out later it was US dollars. So it was like a million Canadian. Just kidding. It was like 15 grand Canadian. And man, I go to this turn, I found out later the second highest bid was 7 grand. So people are razzing me, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like, it's so ridiculous. And I was a junior partner of the firm. I wasn't even a senior partner yet.
Yeah.
But oh my God, man, like, that was the best thing I'd ever done. Other than having my kids again, get married. That was the start of something spectacular. So I fly down to LA, right? Ed picks me up in his brand new Mercedes Benz. You've probably heard the story. I get in the car and we're sitting, and I put the seatbelt on. He's like, "Hey," he's like, "You want a massage?" And I was like, "What kind of a party is this?" He goes, the seat, it's got massagers. I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I'm like getting a massage. We're driving to the Staples Center. He parks like right in the front. We sit courtside. Watched, I think, the Clippers and the Cavs were playing. I think LeBron James was playing at the time, but I can't remember for sure. But anyway, we sat there next to Billy Crystal and a couple other actors, and we're just chilling. And Christiana, his wife, calls, and he's like, "I can see you on TV," and we're just building a relationship. I'm telling my story. He's getting to know me, and he's like, "Hey, you should stick around a couple of days." So, one day turned into 3, and we went to his place in Lake Arrowhead, where he had a cabin at the time. And
wow.
Yeah, it's been a couple of days together. And, he told me, he goes, "Look, I'll be to you what my mentor was to me." And, a year later, I ended up in the hospital, and he probably called me or my wife every day for the entire year to check in. And he called the most out of any, not that I expect people to call. People deal with those things differently. And, if some people don't reach out, doesn't mean anything to me, good or bad. But, he checked in all the time, and we really got close in that year. And yeah, we came out, and I love his mindset. I love how he transfers energy. I think he's the best speaker in the world because I think he's the best at transferring energy. I think he's super good at reading people. I think he's a great listener. He has developed his skills beyond anybody in the space by far. And he's a super cool dude, man. He cares a lot about his people. So you combo those together. He's a family man. He's got 2 amazing kids. He's I don't want to be him or have his life, because that's his life, but there's a lot of things that I appreciate about Ed.
Wow, I love that. And that was my big thing. And even the jump, he was just another guy who stood in a leadership position and shared his values and treated people right, and really was just a true definition of a leader, just as you are. And so I classify you, David Meltzer, Ed, all these big guys in this. And so the leadership part of it is just so huge. And that's one thing that you're absolutely amazing on. And I wanted to bring this up too, because I was talking to Jacob prior to it, right? And it was something that you said last night while I was like researching and watching some stuff. And it's right before you're going on stage and speaking. You're like going over your speech, your 1 hour speech. You're like, I probably spent 400 hours studying this, 1 hour speech. And for the audience here too, Steve even called me today. Made sure, hey, do I need anything for this? What do you wear? And like everything, just to make sure he was prepared for everything. And the separation is in the preparation. And that's exactly what you tell. And I want to kind of lead off on there is, what does that separation look like for the kind of success you've built yourself, right? What is that preparation that's led you to the levels you are now?
No, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think the first part of preparation is almost coming to is accepting that talent's not enough. Talent is not enough, because I know a lot of talented people that don't prepare. In fact, some of the most talented people that I know prepare the least, and they're getting average results like everybody else. Why? Because they've been getting by on talent their whole life. I think one of my advantages is that I didn't feel like I was getting by on talent my whole life. I felt like I was going to have to work for everything that I had, becoming that person. I started at 23 here. I was a baker at a restaurant. So I knew that in the beginning, Andrew, I knew I was not going to be able to outspeak people. I know, like, I got, C minuses in high school. My intellect was not above people. I didn't necessarily go to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. I went to a good college, but I didn't go to Harvard. So I knew I was pretty average at a lot of things, but I got really, 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 really good at all the things that I could control. See, having Crohn's disease my whole life, I felt out of control most of my life. Like, when you have an autoimmune disease and you can't control it, you feel helpless, man. Like, when you the thing with the health is that you feel helpless, and it's easy to get down because you're like, man, like, what did I do? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, no, you're born like that. There's nothing you could do. Yeah. So I think when it came to preparation, I was like, you know what? I can out prepare people. If I out prepare people, if I study more YouTube speeches, if I practice speaking back and forth in front of the mirror, if I memorize all of Ed's YouTube video speeches from the past conventions, all of them verbatim, and I can do them at home in my kitchen, and I can walk the same, and I can do the same amount of steps left to right, take the jacket off when he pauses, rolls up his sleeves, right? I can tell you when Ed takes his jacket off in every talk he's done that's on YouTube. I can tell you when he, you know, he's going to talk to you about the day you were born and the day you die. He's going to get really serious, and then he's going to make you laugh, and then he's going to pull it all together at the end. And that's why he's one of the greatest speakers. So I literally wrote hundreds of other people's speeches. I studied them. I memorized them all. I spoke like them. I practiced using my voice like them, influx, transferring energy, holding breath, not, and I learned the language of other people. And that all came through preparation, whether it was whether it was a plan for a client. Like if I was going to carry back a plan for a client, we're going to offer some great products through our great companies. If the average agent was going to spend a couple hours prepping, I was probably going to put in 4 or 5, right? If I get a 10-minute talk at our convention, you see a lot of people, they go up on stage and they have a napkin and they wrote their talk in the lounge, you know, the day before, not just our company, but in all companies, right? That's what happens. There's a lot of people that don't prepare. And, you know, for a 10-minute talk, I'm putting in hours and hours and hours of preparation.
Wow. That's, you know, they always say that hard work beats talent every time.
100%. And then you prepare long enough, then you become talented. And by the time you get talented, you're so prepared. It's a good match.
Yeah. I feel at that point, it's just second nature. That's how you're just, you know, wired at that point.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. And I absolutely love that. I've shared on this podcast before that, one of my visions in this company is to, you know, be on that stage, you know, giving a speech, and, you know, I appreciate that. You know, I can't wait to have you and Ed and standing out there, maybe welcoming me. And so, you know, I appreciate you so much for being on, but I want to wrap up with, you know, one last question here of, you know, what is that impact that drives you, that impact that you want to have on the world?
I want to help people realize their full potential. You know, I think, you know, when people look at other people, everybody sees something different. They see things differently, through different lenses. When I see the world, when I see people, I see possibility. You know, it's not a judgment thing, but it's more of a man, like with a little bit of self-esteem and a little more self-confidence, you know, she would be amazing, right? Or she would fly, right? Or he would feel so much better. So for me, I want to, that's why I do my YouTube channel. That's why I do my podcast. I want to help people build confidence. I want to help people get out of their mental funk. Man, it's tough to live in a dark cloud. It's hard to live with low self-esteem or low confidence. And I see people do it for their entire life. I want to help people have breakthroughs. And yet not everybody's going to get to peak level and stay at peak level. But you know what? So many people will never even hit a peak level. They'll never peak. They'll never have a big run. They'll never make some big changes. And if I could just dedicate the rest of my life, and that's why I love entrepreneurship, because, you know, you're in control for once. If I could dedicate the rest of my life to teaching others how to reach peak performance through entrepreneurship, right? Gain confidence, have self-esteem, get in control, right? Get in control of their finances, you know, feel significant, get to experience growth, you know, and then eventually the contribution that they want. Like I don't want to be the king, Andrew. I want to be the king maker, the queen maker, right? It's about helping other people get what they want. And eventually, as a result, you're always going to get what you want. So that's the impact, man. That's why I do what I do. And that's what keeps me rolling.
Absolutely amazing. I already know that I'm going to be listening to this whole thing back and taking notes on everything. So hopefully everybody listening, pulled something of value from this. And if you haven't, you need to re-listen to it because you weren't listening. So thank you so much for giving us the time
Yeah.
today. And where can everyone find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Holbrook's World. Find me on YouTube. Just search Steve Holbrook or S. Holbrook's Mindset. And those will be two great places to start.
Awesome. Beautiful. Also, for everyone, I'll add his YouTube and his Instagram in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. And with that said, I appreciate you all coming to this episode of Road to 100 Million. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
See you, everybody.